Well, hello and good day. So I'm on the beginning of a journey. I'm going to try to start selling products I make, handmade items, at craft fairs and such. Here's my thing. I'm simply just documenting the journey. One of the things that I'm starting with is I wanted to try my hand at jelly roll items. You know, if you recognize this, you know. I'm not trying to show how to get things done at this moment because I don't know how to get things done. What I've done is watch a bunch of videos and I found some people that are having some success doing it. But you also can end up with stuff like this. I don't know if you recognize the fact that it's the wrong shape. It's closer to a bowl, and no, it will not iron out. I tried multiple ways, but it's also the first attempt. One of the things I'm learning about the jelly roll process is it's harder than it looks. All these people that do these things, they tend to make things look a little too easy. So I got to give kudos to those that do it. But I did end up with my second attempt after my first attempt being more bold-like, going back and seeing what I was missing. See, that's the thing, y'all. We know that we have to learn from our mistakes. And I'm literally in the middle of what they call R&D process of my products that I want to sell, research and development. And I'm not going to just take somebody else's pattern and do their thing. Now, am I going to use it for inspiration? You betcha. However, but I am looking for the techniques, and I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. But the criteria on the items I'm trying to put together they have to be useful. I don't like trinkets. I've never been into that. So, they're supposed to turn into placemats. It would have been easier if I would have started with just a circle like a coaster. I never started the simplest thing. That doesn't happen in my world. I don't know. Are you that same way too? Anyway, but my second attempt isn't too bad. Now, it has taken some ironing persuasion to make it not too bad. But according to multiple of the videos that I've watched, it usually does. So I'm okay with that. Now, what it'll do after I wash it, that's anybody's guess. But that's part of R&D, right? So, like I said, I'm just documenting my learning. Like I said, bowl-like, not what I was looking for. I've made bowls, by the way. Where is my... I do not see it. Oh, here it is. The rope bowls. This is actually one of the... I have a bit of a mess, but we'll clean that up as we go. Not to mention, I'm actually moving workshops, moving areas in the somewhat nearest future. Don't know what the dates look like there. But it's going to be better because I'll have more room to categorize. I'm one of those people that I categorize, sort. So this is kind of cool. This was my original where I learned to do stuff that I knew I could manage it. This is actually a hot pad type thing. But you know those aluminum pans that you use for casserole dishes that are sold at box stores like Sam's and BJ's and, you know, the catering level ones. Those fit perfectly in here. Personally, I think that's a cool thing because how many times we go someplace we want our stuff to stay warmer, or it needs a hot pad and nothing fits, or you can't carry it because it's hot. Hence this. Anyway, that's one of the products that I intend on selling. The objective here is to figure out the things that I've had ideas that I want to sell. The challenge is when you choose a product you want to sell, don't choose a product you can't stand making. Don't choose a product that you don't like making. You need to enjoy your stuff just as much as the person you're trying to sell it to, right? Because how are you supposed to sell something if you don't even like it? Especially after you've stared at it for hours because you're trying to put it together, or you've had to do, you're trying to build 10, 15, 20, 100 of them. Usually my line's the 50 part because that's what seems to, I end up getting tasked for things that are in the 50 category. There's my number where I usually have to stop. So that's probably where it's going to be stopping here too. Of course, I doubt I'll ever make 50 of anything of these type products. Anyway, I'm rambling. Anyway, so my journey. This is where my thought process started, and I'll probably repeat some of these because I think they're truly valuable. And yeah, they're flimsy, but then so the pans are too. The whole point is the thermal operation, being able to carry the pans and be able to let them out being served and not lose heat instantaneously. Phase one of the sewing part. I'm sure if you've had anything to do with the jelly roll, this was a 2.5 inch piece of fabric with batting, and then put together, sewed strips together, which, by the way, the serger works for that if you do it meticulously. If you can't do the meticulous, it doesn't work. But I did also figure out that jelly roll making is rather forgiving. Apparently, minus this part. Apparently. And I've also figured out a few other things. Like I have like these tabletop pieces for my, I've got 2 different sewing machines here. Let's see if I can share with you. I ended up using this one for the jelly roll. I started here. This is my Bernita. This is my favorite machine. The problem is it's a vintage style Bernita. It's an 830. The zigzag on it does not go to a setting number 5. It's closer to a modern day 3.5. I'd say about that. So it's not really wide enough for catching the edges of the jelly roll. It was fine for the rope baskets, but this puppy is not really wide enough to do jelly roll. But on the fortunate side, I have 2 machines. I actually got a couple more than that, but they have other purposes. And this one I've got a big table on. And then, by the way, just in case you all want little tips and tricks, here's a tip for you. Get yourself a raising and lowering table for your machines. I personally, especially while I'm doing R&D stuff, I like my machine at standing height, because my up and down and movement with stuff drives my back crazy. I'm not even entirely sure I'm going to be able to sit when I do production stuff. But when I do high repetition, I can lower the thing down, sit in a regular chair, and work that way. So I was able to find a really nice discount on just the legs for the raising and lowering desk, which is super sweet. I'm so glad I did that. It wasn't that expensive. It was only like $100. It wasn't that bad. Especially when you consider that one of the things that I figured out was as I'm doing the jelly roll stuff, having a big platform that you can whirl it out on, that you can go, really move out, is really nice. However, when I need to be doing other stuff and things, I just go ahead and raise it back up to where I need it for the other heights, or be able to sit for that matter. And these things maintain for the weight. Make sure you have adjusted things. Pay attention to what you're doing. Like for instance, right here, I'm like within 1/8 of an inch of my other table, and I could discombobulate things pretty easily if I'm not paying attention. But anyway, so we've got a jelly roll that we did a 40-piece thing on. I'm not sold on the colors, because to be completely honest about it, it was basically a limited time discount on Amazon. It's still a quality quilted cotton, but it's really not my flavor. It definitely has some vintage style to it, though, because these colors and the way that it's laying out is very vintage to me. I guess maybe because it reminds me of an old quilt I used to have when I was a kid. I think that's actually why. Like this right here. Check this out. This, what do they call that? I want to say gabardine, but it's not. I don't know. I can't remember what it's called now. But either way, I had an old quilt that had a lot of that in it. I have no idea what I'm going to do with that. It'll work for a hot pad, sort of. I don't think it's ever going to lay flat. I'm actually tempted to rip it out because it's a super wide zigzag. But then what would I do with it then? Other than, don't like wasting things. Anywho, this one turned out okay once I persuaded it with the iron enough, and then turned around and when it was actually moist from the steam, I have this pressing mat, this wool pressing mat, and I literally just sat it on top of it and just left it there. I need to actually package me up another brick. So one of the things I like to do is make books. I'm horrifyingly eclectic when it comes to my maker aspect. I can't seem to stand one subject. Of course, you've probably been able to tell that by the vocals of this, but just by listening to me talk. But either way, I like making books, and one of the things that helpful making books is a clean brick. And so you wrap them in craft paper so they stay clean and they're not getting the grit and stuff all over your project, but that would have been useful. I think I'll probably have to bring a couple of those in from my other shop. But anyway, I will share with you more as I figure this thing out, and maybe have a finished product that I don't hate. And then I'll be able to tell you whether I could stand doing these things, because the objective is to make it to where I can sell these, or at least give a few as gifts for the holidays. I don't know, because I can't imagine doing less than 4 for a set. And I got to figure out whether I can stand doing 1 first. R&D, yeah, R&D, that's where we're at. So I will, just thought I'd update at this stage. I'm going to progress with this one further and see where we're at. I still have the bowl that's curved. I'm not messing with it. I might actually, so what ended up happening last night was I got like almost to a full-size placemat. Almost. But the dang thing started turning into a bowl again. So I was messing with a couple of techniques, like one with using an edge barrier. And then of course, I'm going to make a couple shorts about these things. I like these things, but it does depend on your machine. But here's what I have learned at this juncture, and I'm going to see if I can show you. I ripped out a bunch, like, I don't know, 10 feet. Not only does that make a huge mess, but oh well. And then, now granted, this stuff has already been ironed, so there is that. And then because last night I was working on my Singer, which is, it has a much wider zigzag. It has a setting of 5. This one goes up to like a 4, which is closer to a 3. It's just an old, it's an 830. It's a workhorse, but it's not, it doesn't have the more modern settings. What I figured out is walking foot. Friends, the walking foot is key. Now, like I said, this is a Bernina 830. It's an old style, but walking foot is your key. I was watching a couple of YouTubers last night. One of them, I don't know that she gives the keys to the inside to the beginners as well as I would like to have heard. However, I'm figuring out that the walking foot is the key element in getting things flat. Because, so when I was trying to get everything just to lay down, and I was trying to even keep it from bulking, I couldn't do it. Now my walking foot, I'm going to see if I can show you this. My walking foot, if you see this, like that, all right. Now, in comparison, So this is my standard foot, which is why I thought I was having, why I felt I was having trouble. It's the same gap for the zigzag. This is just a regular zigzag foot, but look how much wider that is, the walking foot is. And it's stabilizing my two pieces pretty well. So maybe that's a key to somebody. Anyway, it's a key to me. So I'm moving forward and see what happens. Alright, just real quick, I want to show you what I'm doing with the serger. I have a rather long string here, but this is the last few. I want this to be my outside pieces because they have a beautiful fall colors. I've elected to go to somewhat of a table runner for this one because I don't have enough material to make enough placemats to be a set, so table runner it is. And what I'm doing here is I leave the last one on, and all I'm doing is I'm hitting that knife right at the corner, and then I'm going straight to the next corner. That's all it is. And I just slide it in there and let it do its job. Make sure that that's flat. Let it roll. And bring this one back up. Pretty side. Reach back, get my next one. The pretty side. Remember that I was in my blog, I'm talking about the L. Well, it's kind of a backwards L. It's kind of upside down too, for that matter. But you get it. You know, it's an L. It's like an L bracket. It doesn't change the way it's tilted. Now, do I know the number of strips to make the thing to do the shape? No, I don't. Especially when I figured out that the little pattern packs, or the little fabric packs like that you get from Walmart, unless they are actually fat quarters, they're not as long as, so one piece is like half a strip of what normal jelly rolls are, because jelly rolls are 20. They're 40 inches long per piece, folded in half at 20. These are actually only 20 by, I want to say 18 on the dimensions per piece, so it's like half. Now, thankfully, I've figured out the serger method, so the whole sew it together to make one piece thing is really not that big a deal. It would be a big deal if I was straight stitching these things. My patience doesn't go that far. But, so I'm learning, and you're just seeing me repeat time after time the same thing. But despite the fact that serging does take more thread, it's also trimming while I'm at it. Instead of having to go back through and trim every stinking one of these things, and then have to concern about them falling apart, because my first ones, the seam was falling apart. Okay, so that's it. I have a little knifey thing on the back, so that's what I'm doing there. And when I was talking about that string of loops, this is what I'm talking about. Okay, I'll show you the rest of this in a sec. Okay, so this is literally dragging over from the serger. I have another little thing that I got is these little rings. They're just little knife. It's made for quilting. All they are is this little it's a little knife in the ring. So, but here's the thing: you only have to hit one piece of it. It doesn't matter. I thought it would. I thought these strings at the end would be a royal pain in the butt and be a bad thing. But it turns out that you fold it right into the tube, so it really doesn't matter. So literally, let's see if I can get you. You just pull that up, do the thing. Now, did one of those little daisies with a blade in it, would that be nice? Sure, one of these days I'll have one. I just haven't done it yet. These are easy to take off. Actually, what I intended on doing with this is taking a grinder and flattening this out, because I don't have a blade. Here, come over here for this. Come on, follow me. I don't have a blade on the side of this, and I was literally going to paste it to the side of my machine. And I probably will still, because I've got 3 of them. Constantly, you'll find that this is basically what my channel is really all about. It's about figuring out things to make it easier to do something, because quite frankly, I can't stand to just do it the way I'm told, or do it the way I've seen if I can think of something better. Now granted, does that sometimes mess up the process? Well, yes it does! And then I get to figure out what I did wrong. And do I end up with an improvement over the beginning? Most of the time I do. But I'm not that person that just stays in status quo. That is so not me. And you can see, like, the alignment of the 2.5 inches is not 100%. I got some of them a little bit not as straight as I would like to see them, but they're fine. Because what you'll find when you start folding these, it's not going to matter. Not a bit. So, it just folds right into your tubing. So, yeah, I thought, well, I mean, I can experiment with it, see if this is going to work, because it's a whole, but stitching across and doing back stitching, oh my. Now, granted, caveat, if you don't have a serger, that's what you have to do. Because what you can't have is those seams coming undone, like immediately when you're finding it done. Alright, real quick, I managed to roll an iron over the top. So, this is the pattern I have chose for the center. I'm thinking that it kind of needs to be, now that I have somewhat of a clue. I won't call it a really good clue, but it's somewhat. It kind of needs to be a tight pattern, because those are the ones that get wrinkled up more because you're crunching it more in the center. So I'm using the tighter pattern instead of making it something that you really need to be able to see a distinct pattern, you know, like your bigger stuff that it's more fun to see. I'm just not doing it that way, because I'm finding it's easier to. So you know how I was talking about one of the challenges with doing these things is there's a twist that happens with this, and I'll be darned if I know why in the world it twists. I'm sure if I analyze the physics behind why is it doing that, it's probably when I'm doing the sewing and doing the L, I literally put a twist in every one of them. Most likely, because I can't think of any other place that it's twisting. Now, if you look at this is where the challenge comes. This is where I didn't pay enough attention. Look how far that's off. But, here's the thing. So, when you fold it this way, and then you fold it again this way, and then it comes in, you don't see it anyway. Now, granted, are all of mine like that? And they're not all that bad. So, that one's pretty drastic. I was probably talking. But anyway, so I'm just, like I said, I'm just rolling a quick iron over the top, persuading them just a smidgen. Now, I do think at some juncture it would behoove me to just not make the string so long. Okay, it took me a few minutes to get that twist out. I do think, though, that if I try to do another long run like this, I'll just do it in halves. Because it doesn't take that much. Because I've got the pieces of batting that I have to add on anyway, because I'm not doing the rolls. Because I own a big, huge thing of batting. I guess, if I remember correctly, there was one of the days when I was in the fabric store. I want to say Joann's. And they were having a big, huge sale. And I saw that enormous roll of batting. And it was like one of those clearance. I don't know why it was a clearance. I have no idea. for like $70. Now, granted, was that more money than I wanted to spend at the time? I seem to remember thinking to myself, why in the world did I buy that? Knowing fully well, just because I thought maybe I would do some quilts one day, does not justify a roll of batting for $70. However, God must have been looking out for me, because years later, next thing I know, I'm get this inspiration to do these type of videos and do these kind of things and share it with y'all, and kind of troubleshoot through the stuff and things that go along with these, and try to fill in the gaps of the things that are hard for beginners, and as I figure them out, just simply share them with you. Like I said, I'm not really trying to do tutorials. I'm just really trying to share the things that I learn. God must have known that I needed to do that at some point. So I'm taking my outside piece of fabric. One of the things that I'm sharing with you with the tips and tricks, this is just a pool noodle. And I had sliced it down the middle. I had it for something else. I think it was going across the bar on like a desk of some sort. And that's where my feet rested instead of the bar of the desk, I think. I'm thinking that was what I was doing. Either way, I'm going to try to show you that all I'm doing is I'm wrapping this around. Yeah, try to be on camera would be helpful, right? Okay. I'm wrapping this around. Boy, some of those are off. I really should not try to talk and sew at the same time. Even though that's exactly what this whole channel is talking and sewing at the same time. Yay. Anyway, so trying to keep this on camera, I'm literally just wrapping it. It's a long ways to wrap, but and you can do this with anything you can figure out. And granted, your setup is going to be different than mine. I hope yours is better than mine, quite frankly. I really do, because mine is... Now, granted, I've got a lot of... as a crafter, I get a lot of crap. But, and I use it here and there and here. But a lot of it's also rigged together so drastically, sometimes I wonder if my sanity is even in check. Now, Grant, you're going to find that I like the gadget aspect of things. But I'm also that same person that wants to just use what they've got, if at all possible. Unless it truly saves a lot of time and energy. The things I'm sharing with you definitely save. Some of them are things I just read together. Some of them are stuff like, you know, I have the Amazon links for, because basically I've tried it, and I'm showing you I'm doing it, and I'm showing you how it's saving energy and time. And hopefully money. Alright. You professional jelly rollers probably just went, what the heck? Why would you bother doing that? But it's okay, because I'm figuring this stuff out, and I'm making my stuff more efficient as I do it. So, this is ready to be put batting with, which I have not cut. And I don't know that I'm going to do right now. So, but now you understand what I mean by pool noodle. Okay. Alright, basically all I'm doing is, I figured out on the last of my trial sets that, so they recommend to do two, because the strips are 2.5 inches. That's what's, now granted, I think you could actually make them whatever size you felt like. But the normal jelly roll ones are 2.5 inches. Now they make the batting in those rolls 2.5 and 2.25. I'm learning that I personally like, make sure that's right, because I can mess up when I'm talking. The 2.25, because it gives me a little bit of wiggle room to have the right. I'm gonna be doing Christmas ones anyway, so I might as well just make it. You can do the math, I suppose. It's getting a little late for me to do math. But I like the 2.25, and all I'm doing is eyeballing on the end with one of these acrylic rulers. I really like the long ruler. that stretches all the way to the end of my cutting mat. And of course, this big, huge cutting mat. Now, you guys, you don't have to have all this. You can just use scissors. And this, by the way, is a 60-inch rotary cutter. There is 3 different sizes in these kind. It's, I want to say 25, 40, and 60. Yeah, I'm going to show you something real quick. Bear with me. Alright, so here's my favorite 45. So what I figured out was these aren't quite deep enough because you can't get all the way, you can get all the way down, but you can't get much pressure, especially when you get to some severe depth. And then I thought to myself, well, this isn't gaining me any distance because look, it's not that much difference. Here's the key. It's not about the difference. It's about how far the bolt is. The bolt up on this one is much, much higher. So when you hit it with this, you can't get further because of the difference in the platform. So that's what makes it different. And not to mention the circumference being much longer, it also gives you more wear and tear. It gives you more surface area. So interesting, eh? I don't know, but I figured out why, because I was like, wait a minute, this isn't gonna give me anything because of how big the frame is. Then I realized, oh yeah, it is. The things we figure out. Anyway, I think I'm through cutting. Here, let me talk to ya. If it turns out I come up with anything that I learned in addition on this, I'll share it with you because it's all an adventure and I'm here to share. Or drive everybody nuts. I'm not sure which. Anyway, later. Well, I have to say, so I got through. I'm pretty sure when I left you guys last, I was working on the last of my jelly rolls. So this is the last one I did. This is the one with, make sure I'm right. I think so. Yeah. So this is the one with the piece that you basically emulate being, no, it can't be. That can't be it. No, the last is the one. Anyway, so I did 3 different ones. I'm just kind of reviewing this, guys, because, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm trying to finish up this video and let you know how things turned out. First, a little bit of closure on it. Then I'll tell you something in a minute, my little secret. So, this shape, this ended up with an 8-inch core. I'm going to call it a core. I don't know what else to call it. This is the 10-inch. It causes it to be longer. And with a little less width to get to longer. You see how that works there? So this is the 10-inch. This was an 8-inch. Okay, and this one, I think is probably better size-wise for a placemat, if that's what you're trying to do. This one, I think, is 12. No, it's 10. This one is 10. A little less rounds. I think I ended up doing 10 rounds across the board, to be honest. I won't say across the board because I know one of them is more than that. This is 10. It's not a bad size. I like the size of this, but let's look at these two together. Not too bad. It's probably just the difference of a portion of a round, really. This one was a 10-inch core. I think I stopped at... my materials changed, and it's right at like 9.5 something. Anyway, but 10, and then if I was to count the rounds in this, let's see, let's count. So let's say the core is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is a little over 10. I mean, yeah, size of the middle piece, along with the number of rounds, and how you calculate that, y'all, I have no idea, other than good guess and have more experience than I do. All right, I want to share with you what my intention was for even doing all of these placemats, and then realizing that that's not, I'm, don't, I don't dislike them. I just don't love them. I'm not sure that, I will probably use them in the house because I hate wasting things. However, I think it's more because they're more pastel to me. Anyway, I used a jelly roll that I thought I would like. I'm not so sure I'm there, though. All right, so this one I used a different technique. Ta-da! This is more of a table runner, not quite a runner, I would say. More like a big, huge hot pad. How about that? Big, huge hot pad. Let me get back here so you can see. You can kind of see a perspective on it, right? Right? The idea behind this one was, you know how when you do your Thanksgiving meal, you have a centerpiece, and then your centerpiece needs to get moved because nobody wants it there in the first place, and but you need to be able to put pots and stuff there, so that way people can sit at the table and eat. That's kind of my thought here. Yeah, I'm a little off. I know that. It's okay. But, y'all, I'm going to share my secret. Are you ready? I don't love jelly rolls. It's okay. It's okay. I did this to see whether I'd like it or not. See, here's the thing. When I'm doing something, at least something that I'm going to sell, hopefully sell, try to sell, I don't want to do something I want to be excited about the things that I'm making. And especially when you got to make them, let's hope 100 times. So, little backstory for you. I do a lot of web design. Sometimes I get into things that I really wish I would have said no. But at the same time, I knew I was doing it for a purpose. I do that a lot, actually. I really need to say no. And that's the same thing I'm applying here. It's a lesson that I've learned, that if you're not enjoying what you're doing to some degree, don't. Now, there is the aspect, let me clarify just a smidge here. There is the aspect that if you've been led to do something, my world is I follow Jesus. And oftentimes I get led to do stuff. It doesn't mean it's always fun. Sometimes it is amazing and fun, but sometimes it also takes a little bit to get to the amazing and fun. But if I've been sincerely led to do it, and it's not what I call a frisbee, in other words, a distraction, then it's amazing. So, but as far as this business is concerned, I really need to enjoy it. Because this kind of stuff, because it carries an inventory and basically all the things that passive incomes try to avoid, you gotta enjoy it. Jelly roll's not one of them. Not for me. Now, there's people out there that, they are astonishing at it. And now that I know the concepts, I also know what I probably could do if I should have the need to, what I might get some inclination on inspiration to do in the future, should I choose to, or something that maybe somebody needs to be, that I get inspired to gift. But you're not going to be seeing these things on my website. But I do want to share one last thing before we end off here. So I found right before I started this big one, right? I found a tip. So this lady, this was an older video. She didn't even have the Clover gadget to keep this, and she emulated the beginning piece. If you see here, she took, instead of doing the middle piece and then adding the two sides, she emulated the beginning by just stitching. That way, when you do start doing that turn, it's not nearly so hard. I like that. So I just figured out that this is basically 3 things wide. So in order to simulate the look of this center like the other video showed, I'm putting 2 lanes down. And I also figured out this little shorty foot and its guide works. Amazing when something actually works as it's designed, right? Anywho, just sharing. Okay, part 2 of this little workaround for the center of a Jelly Roll rug. I don't know if that looks okay, but this is where we're going at the time. But part 2 of it is the piece that you come alongside your, and then start doing the center. So what you want to do, this is, I'm trying to work this out as I go along. The lady basically, and I'll have to look up and try to link, is she used 10 inches, and I don't know that it would vary. Well, obviously you don't want to use more than the length of your lead, but if you're doing a long lead like this one, this is 20 inches, because it's a table runner slash really long hot pad. Well, anyway, I like a useful table runner, let's just say that. So she used 10 inches, so I'm looking at 10 inches. Now the whole point is that you have enough to come in on the side of, and I got to thinking about it, and because you got to get that wrap in there sooner or later. So I saw her do a 10-inch piece. She's basically cut it down. But you have to have enough on that beginning end to do a little bit of a roll. So I'm going with, let's go with 1/2 inch. And I'm just looking at my little ruler hoop-de-doo here and making it up as I go along, of course. Because don't we all? I hope so, because that's what where creativity comes. This has got the batting and everything in it. So theoretically, and I already pressed it that way, theoretically, I would be just doing a smidge of a roll. Yeah. Alright, now here's the thing. This is kind of like, it reminds me of doing wiring. I'm glad I went with that 1/2 inch instead of a 1/4, because you have to have enough to hit. I don't know if you could see that, and I don't know if I could. Yeah. So enough to hit and be able to at least grab in your machine. Okay, so is if you have the Clover attachments, you got to put them on before you hit the machining. Otherwise, you got to stop or cut or go from the back end. It's kind of like, I don't know if anybody's ever done electrical work, but if you don't put your heat shrink on first, you're not going to get there. Or the hose clamp, for instance. Anyway, so I'm going to try to get this thing prepped, and I'll probably just show you once I actually get it on there, because I don't know what I'm doing. This is I'm making it up as I go along. I'm just hoping this thing works better than the mangling around the corner thing that I did earlier. We'll see, right? We'll see. All right. I liked that one. My only difference is when I did it, given that these tubes all basically are 4 layers of batting, I only did 1 in this, and it shows. So if you decide to do something, if you happen to look up on one of the videos talking about doing the simulated center kind of thing, I don't know what they want to call it. I have no clue. But I would highly suggest to put lots of batting in that so it feels the same and has the same stability. Because I don't know if you can tell, but this is it's just thinner. It's only 1 piece versus like these that are 4, and they definitely have some more heft and structure to them. So anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know, just being transparent. I live in the real world of crafting and homemade and sewing, and you're gonna see all sorts of stuff on here, because I also do crocheting, knitting, weaving. I'm working on spinning. Oh, that has been a trial, but either way. So my next one coming up is I made, and this was what you get to look forward to. This will be my next video. Is I put together a structure to make a iPad sleeve. You would think it's a laptop, but it's actually not. It's just a 12-inch iPad. Anyway, a sleeve, and I'm doing different things to experiment with how to get that done. It's got little pockets on it, so I can take my little pencil and put it in there, and But anyway, I'm experimenting with how in blazes can you produce one of these things to make it better than just a typical that's on the market, because some of them are honestly just too chintzy for me. I'm not, okay, that's probably the wrong word to use. They don't offer enough protection to the valuable piece of equipment that's in it for my taste. Let's put it that way. Okay, so and that's going to be coming up. I didn't turn the camera on for making this one because I needed to make one to see how bad it was going to be first. Yeah, so that's coming up next. Sooner or later it'll be linked in the slides. All right, we shall catch you guys later. Don't forget to get out there and do the thing that makes you happy. Create. If you're that person, go create. All right? We'll catch you on the next one. See ya.